Hey, Sean,
Yes, sir, Howard Doss.
you ever been to jail?
I have been through the jail.
I went to
I
jail.
have.
I went to jail once.
I've taken a person or two, given them a trip to jail.
No, but you never been in jail, huh?
Never been in there.
Well, you're a lucky person. You shouldn't be in jail being a police officer.
That is
All right.
true. That is true.
I said, but today we've got a guest who's been in. He's been not only in jail, he's been in prison. He's been on the hard side of prison. He's been involved with all the stuff in prison, all the notorious stuff that keeps like little lily white boys like me not wanting to go to prison. He's been involved with.
I understand that.
So he's got a kind of interesting story about being in prison, kind of finding himself, getting sober in prison, coming out, and making the world a better place from starting in hate and ending in love. So today we got Garett Deetz on. How you
Hey,
doing, sir?
how are you guys? Welcome, man.
Good.
Thank you. Appreciate
No,
it.
glad to have you.
Yeah.
We kind of go through our little spiel here. This is called Cocktails and Cocktails. We like to have stories. We like to have a drink. Garrett, full respect to you. He is sober, as you mentioned, so he will not be having a drink with us, but we are still going to do the honors.
No,
Yeah,
I'll have a drink, but it's just vanilla Coke. You know what I mean?
Hey,
It's just
you,
plain vanilla Coke.
you flavored it up. Well done.
I
Well,
flavored it for you guys.
good stuff, man.
as long as it's not apple coke, I think we'd be out on apple coke,
Yes,
right?
yes. Hey, we had the caveman when he got out. Same type of thing. Didn't drink, and he had
No, he had a strawberry milkshake. That's what he
strawberry
had.
milkshake.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is my fiance was like, "You should drink some chocolate milk. That's what you should drink is some milk or chocolate milk."
That's
But
gangster, man. That's gangster.
I like chocolate
Drink
milk, man.
Fairlife at least. That Fairlife chocolate milk. That's good.
Fair life. I'm lactose intolerant. I
It
can't
is. It's
have that
good,
stuff.
man.
Yeah.
It's really good. All right. Anyway, so before we dive into your amazing story, I'm actually really proud of this bottle. So right here, I'm proud that we're going to drink it. I didn't bring it, but Jason, our other third party that's here, came across a great collection of
It's
bourbon
big.
that you came across. This is some of the bottles. He bought a bunch of stuff of a guy who was unloading a bunch of old school high end stuff. And so this is a 1.75 liter of Weller 12.
Yeah, fantastic. This
It's
is
and what do you think this is from? Maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, something like that. So he's had a couple of these. He actually gave me one of these as a gift for my retirement, if I remember correctly, from the police department. None of us have brought ourselves to cracking one of these bad boys yet. So tonight we are breaking the seal, as we just heard right there. And Jason, you get the first pour, actually, man. You're all right. So
you need some help. That's a bunch of liquor.
no, it pours quite nicely. It's got a nice top on it.
Yeah, I like that.
Doesn't dribble everywhere.
Dribble.
That becomes a problem as you get older.
So Garrett, while we're pouring these drinks, tell us about yourself. Tell us about growing up as a child and the things you were exposed to.
Yeah, man. I grew up military, man. My dad was my mom and dad. They met in the Marines. They had a Marine Corps wedding, so I grew up on bases till I was about 7. So strict family. My dad was like obviously Marine. That comes with that strict entitlement of do. Um, when my dad retired, he retired in Houston, Texas, and I have an older brother and then a much older sister. And when they finally got past all the retirement, my mom and dad would take off and go to Vegas. And when they would leave to go to Vegas, they left the house to my sister. And she's 19, 20 years old at the time. So you can only imagine what's going on at the house, dude. It's kegger parties and everybody's getting drunk. When I was 8 years old, her and her friends thought it would be cool to get the little kid drunk, see what it'll do. You know what I mean? I know a lot of kids probably don't go through that at 8 years old, but I did.
Yeah.
And then same scenario when I was 10, they were out of town and my sister's friends decided to give me a little bit of Coke. 10 years old, got high for the first time. So like I tell people all the time when I talk is like, for me, drugs and alcohol, young age, man. So like, I had a great family, man. Great parents, great brother, great sister, man. They just, they partied like any other family. I could say like any other family, but that growing up in the 80s, kegger parties was normal. You know what I mean? All the high school kids are going to kegger parties and everybody's getting drunk. I don't think they just intentionally knew that giving me drugs and alcohol was going to possibly make me go the route that I went.
Man, it's kind of tough on a young brain too, man. Snorting coke's not good for a 10-year-old's
No, not at all, man.
noggin, you know.
There's Go
Sorry,
ahead.
let me ask you this, man. So obviously, we'll get into the the path that your life ended up going.
Mhm.
Once you were late teen, adult, and so forth. Your sister, when she was partying like that, and not to make this about her or anything like that, or if you didn't even want to talk about it, I understand. Did she have a similar path, or was it just the typical partying young kids at that age, 18, 19, 20, 21 do, and then she was like, all right, cool.
No, I mean, she was a party animal. You know what I mean? She hung out with bikers, so she was always involved in that kind of activity. You know what I mean? I think it's when my parents left, it was the house was open for her to have that group in.
Hmm.
So she was definitely a super party animal. And excuse me, I don't mind speaking about her. We lost her last year, but she's definitely a party animal, man. My whole life, just parties. Just
Well, sorry to hear about that for your
Yeah.
no,
sister.
I appreciate that, man. But no, and then like I don't know. And I tell people, so my birthday is December 28th, right? So it's 3 days after Christmas. Anybody knows? Dude, the worst birthday in the world, dude. Listen, your family will definitely forget your birthday, guaranteed. Listen, they
Between Christmas and New Year's, the two
dude,
parties.
I'll tell you my story, but my parents just forgot about this one that just passed. My dad, we were in Vegas, and my dad was like, "Oh, damn, your birthday was the other day," and I was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot." You know what I mean? But it's just everything's going on with Christmas, like you said, in New Year's. It's just it is what it is. But when I was 14 years old, so we always celebrated it November 28th because my parents wanted me to have a birthday party. They have kids over and stuff like that. So we always celebrated November 28th. 14 years old, come home November 28th, my birthday. I'm excited. I get in the house, nothing. No happy birthday, no birthday presents, no nothing. Um, I vividly remember that I kind of think I thought that, okay, we're going to celebrate it December 28th this year because I'm getting older. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit teenagers. So a month later, came home, nothing, dude. No happy birthday, no presents, no nothing. I took it as like my parents. I say it all the time is my parents weren't giving me the attention that I wanted. Right? I'm not saying they didn't give me attention. They're military. My dad's working all the time. Work was his life. My mom's was whatever else. And for me, it wasn't the attention I wanted. I wanted it all. And so I ran away, man. Immediately clicked up and got involved in gangs at 14. I mean, on the streets, gangs was where it was at.
Were you down in that Houston area still?
No, well, yes and no. So I was going back and forth. My family was in Houston. I ran out to California, and that's in that neighborhood in California at that time. It was either you're going to be a part of a gang or you're going to be a victim of a gang. You know what I mean? Literally, that's how it was. And so I wasn't going to be a victim. So I head on in, man.
No. What part of California, if you don't mind me asking? What was
Down south, Long Beach, Wilmington, Carson.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
So
Who'd
in our neighbor
jump
in that neighborhood I was in, not to interrupt you, but the neighborhood I was in Carson and Wilmington, it's Bloods, Crips, you know what I mean? You got Serranos, and then you got Skinheads, Aryan Brotherhood dudes, and then you got PNIs, and I wanted to be with the whatever group was toughest or I thought was the scariest.
So did you have other family out there? Is that how I guess you ended up out in California? Or did you just
There,
straight run away and like, I'm going to the West Coast?
we had people, they weren't immediate family, but they were close friends of my family's. And so their kids were out there and I went to their kids' house. So I say my family, but they weren't really
Sure.
immediate family. Yeah.
So what gang did you end up becoming affiliated with?
Skinheads, war. I was considered what was called a war skin back then. It was one of the only factions of skinheads between a couple of them out there in California at the time. And I wanted to be tough. I wanted to be scary.
Man, let me ask you this. So it's kind of funny. I don't want to say funny to me. I mean, we're in Oklahoma, middle of America. Uh,
Sure.
that there's obviously Aryan groups and whatnot out here, that type of stuff. But you talk about like the Nazi lowriders, skinheads, all that stuff that's out there on the West Coast, and a lot of people just when you think of like criminal street gangs, in particular West Coast, they think of your black criminal street gangs, as you mentioned, Bloods and Crips. They think of the Hispanics, Serranos, Norteños, and things like that. But those white gangs are deep out there, man. I mean,
Yeah.
on the street, and whereas like here in Oklahoma, yes, we've got white gangs, but they're pretty much strictly in the prison. Now, guys, once they get out on the street, I mean, and you don't have the street gangster stuff like some of our black criminal street gangs do or our Hispanic gangs. But out there, what's it like, for the like as you said, the Nazi type street gangs? What are they involved with?
So the difference is so like Aryan Brotherhood is more prison based gang,
Right.
right? Nazi lowriders are street and prison, but mainly their main control is out of prison. You know what I mean? For us, it was streets. We were a street gang. Skinheads were all about street activity. So and there's so many different fashions of skinheads, man, and they're so um, everybody's together at one point, but then we're fighting each other at another point. But it's huge, man. So when you say dudes go to prison and they click up and then they get out, there's not much out in the. It's not like that for skinheads. You know what I mean? Aryan Brotherhoods, yes, no, they have a lot of control, but we kind of run our own ship. So we were doing what we wanted to do.
So when you left your home at 14, I mean, you kind of felt like, hell, they don't give a shit. I'm gonna go and do my own thing, right? You kind
Sure.
of hooked up with these skinheads, and you said you wanted to be
Want to
big
be bit.
and bad, and you wanted to be scary, but you also wanted to kind of feel included, I guess, right?
Absolutely. You wanted that family. You wanted people that were going to hear you every day, agree with what you're going to agree with, do what you wanted to do, let you go where you want to go, and come when you wanted to come. The rules that you wanted to have at home that you didn't get, so you got it out there. You know what I mean? And they were really open for it.
Well, I know when I was 14, I was a dumbass. I mean, I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't know a whole lot. So I was real susceptible to all sorts of things. That's how I ended up like French rolling my jeans and wearing like getting
Yeah.
with leather and I had a mullet. I mean, I was a dumbass. So what kind of pressure did the older guys in these gangs put on you?
A lot. A lot of we want to see how far you're willing to go to be a part of what we're doing. You know what I mean? Running, huh?
They'd test you, huh?
All day long, all day long. I can tell you a story. Was in our neighborhood. There was a community store. It was in the middle of pretty much in the middle of the neighborhood, and it was a store that was neutral ground. So any store, and a lot of stores in LA do it too, but is no gang violence on the store property because you got families and people, and no matter what gang you're in, your family's going to that store. So that everybody knew the store was off limits. And so we lived probably maybe a quarter mile, half mile from the store through some blocks in the neighborhood. And they would tell us like, here bro, here's $1, go get me a pack of gum. And when you got to think now, when I'm running to the store to get a pack of gum, I'm running through 4 different gangs, neighborhoods, the streets, you know what I mean? Their territories, Bloods on one corner, Crips on the other, Serenos. So, when you're running down that street, they're going to get you. You're going to get beat up. It's happening. But if you make it to that store, you're good because it's neutral. So they tested you in every way they could. They wanted to see how strong you were
Just kind of send you out on crash dummy missions.
all the
And
time,
yeah,
all the
and,
time.
and I think we've talked about it on here before, but LA is, most criminal street gangs across the country, they're not geography based. LA is straight, just like he was talking about. It is straight. Like this block or these blocks belong to this group. Then it's the next one. Then it's the next one. Like Tulsa and most other places. I mean, it's kind of spread out. It's just you'll have dudes from opposite gangs live on the same block, and it's not like that out there. I mean, there's this very territory driven.
Yeah, definitely.
So what were you asked to do as a 14-year-old that no 14-year-old should be asked to do?
Um, I mean, a lot of things I can't talk about. I'd rather not talk about,
Sure.
right? But if your mind can wander, it's there. You know what I mean? Anything from jumping dudes to fighting dudes, just anything and everything they would ask us to do, we had to do it. You know what I mean? If we wanted to continue to be a part of it.
So when was the first time that you crossed paths with the legal system from doing these things you weren't supposed to be doing?
So I was thrown in jail many times when I was a youngster, but like my first real like activity when it comes to any kind of prison, we'll say, um, I was about 18 years old, and I was coming from California to Arizona, and we were running meth for one family member. Well, we call them family members at the time, right? But they weren't real family. From one out there to one out here, and we would drive out here, and then we would go to this hotel room, and we would wait for her to show up, and then she would get the dope, and then we would drive back to Cali. And we came out one weekend, and we called her, and she was like, "Hey, look, dude, it's going to be a while." And she was a tweaker, right? Methamphetamine's tweaker. And if anybody knows, obviously from a police officer, they're on some weird time, right? If I say I'm gonna be there in an hour, I'm actually gonna be there the next day.
Yeah, it's
right?
dope time. I mean, that's just it. I mean, you're
Dope
gonna
time.
I'll tell you
Doper time?
yeah, that's what it's called. I mean, I'll tell you from the police side of things. That's just what it's called. It's like, hey, man, I got a CI, an informant. He's gonna buy from such and such, and if it's meth related, you're on doper time. Even gangsters. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
We're going to go buy this at this time at this place, and it's going to be literally 6 hours later, a different place. I mean, that's just how it goes.
And we call it tweaker time because they call it dope tweak. So, but she said it's going to be a while, so we knew it was going to be a long time. And so my buddy got one of my bros got the idea. He was like, "Hey man, let's weigh this stuff." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Let's weigh it." So we ended up weighing this dope, and when she showed up, we had all her dope that was there, and then we had a little mound over here. And she's like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And I was like, no, it's all here. It's all right here. And she was like, "Well, what's this?" And I was like, "Well, we weighed it." She's like, "Okay, well," she's like, "Well, what are you doing?" I was like, "Well, we thought we could have it. This is extra." She was like, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" And I was like, "Well, we want to sell it." And she was like, "Well, who are you going to sell it to?" And I was like, "Well, we thought you could show us somebody to sell it to." And she's like, "Bro, let me get this right. You want me to give you my drugs and you want me to help you sell my drugs too?" And I was like, "Yeah." But she was so cool that she had some dudes that she sold to, so they she kind of gave them to us so we would start coming out selling dope. And as a skinhead, anybody knows is that you don't do hard drugs. We're not allowed to. You're not allowed to do meth, coke, heroin, none of that stuff. Drink. It's all we can do, right? That's literally because it alters your mind, and us is about race and about taking over the world and all that good stuff that comes with it. And
he's saying that sarcastically, listeners. So
yeah, definitely saying that sarcastically. But listen, after living that life for so long, it's literally sarcastically.
Absolutely. I just want to put that little PSA out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Point. But it was about a year later. Roughly, I was at a buddy's house, and he was in the bathroom with his girl. And he yelled out and he said, "Hey, bro," he said, "your birthday present's underneath the magazine on a coffee table." And so I don't know you guys, but there's not a lot that fits under a coffee magazine on a coffee table. So I thought of money, right? And when I lifted it up, there was a little white line. And I thought, once in a while, we would do coke and no one would know. We would drink a lot of booze and we would probably get arrested or get in a fight. And so I thought, we're going to do some coke, we're going to drink some beer or alcohol, and we're going to get arrested. That's going to be a great night for my birthday, right? And I snorted that line.
8th of November or the 28th of December?
No, this is the 20th of December.
Okay, good. They didn't.
So I did it, man. And methamphetamines, hooked, dude. I was hooked. Immediately I was hooked. And so much. And I tell that story because 9 months later, I was sitting in county jail out here in Arizona, and I was facing 57 counts of grand theft auto, 2 counts of assault, and 1 count of assault with intent to commit murder. 19 years old.
57 counts?
57 counts. GTA.
What are you, a klepto for cars? You got a
well, obviously, if you could tell by why I was arrested, I was tweaking and stealing cars.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I got one other question, Gary. I want to go back. So you said that the this guy who gave you your first bump, your first line of meth. He was in the bathroom with a girl. Were they like? Was there some plumbing problems? I mean, why were they both in the bathroom?
I think she was fixing his plumbing problems.
I see. Okay.
His pipe needed some work.
Pipe needed a little cleaning.
Yes.
But that was my first look at hard time, and knowing that I'm probably going to end up in prison. And
what happened with that? Did you end up going in on that? Did you work?
I did, and I'll tell you a funny story because you're a retired police officer, so you'll get a kick out of this story. So the assault with intent to commit murder. Obviously, I'm tweaking and I'm stealing cars, like we talked about.
Right.
And I pulled into this Circle K one night, and I'm getting gas in a stolen car. Right. And the girl that I'm with goes in the store. My buddy gets in the passenger seat, and I'm pumping gas, and I hear the car in the stall next to me, and it's meat, man. You can hear this is a tough car. And this is in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I know it's an expensive car.
Nice car, yeah.
And I go over and I look, and it's a brand new Mustang Saline convertible, fresh. I mean, it's brand new. And then I see the license plate, and I'm gonna make this story a little shorter, and it said Arpaio on it, right? And I don't know if you know who Arpaio is, but I'm sure you got to know. And so I'm definitely stealing this car.
You took the fucking sheriff's car?
So allegedly, I robbed Joe Arpaio's nephew at gunpoint and stole his car.
Wow.
No, I was wondering how you're stealing these cars. You were using persuasion
No, I was definitely using persuasion.
of the firearms type, huh?
But so I'm facing these court cases, and I get to this one. They're charging me this one separate than all the other ones. My parents hire this great lawyer. He's going to save me from everything. And he gets that case thrown out, right? Because of evidence that says that I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm facing these 57 counts and these 2 counts of assault. And he comes at me with the plea. I'm 19 years old, and my plea was 5-11-19 with a mitigated outside the guidelines 22. And he wants me to sign it. And so I sign it.
Can you tell us that in English?
Yeah. So minimum is 5 years.
Okay.
The mitigated, which normally is what you would get, is 11 years, and the maximum is 19 years.
Okay.
But because of who I was and what I was doing, and the caliber person I was, that they said they wanted to go outside of that 19 years guideline and give me 22, and they wanted to stipulate 22 years. So they knew I was getting at least 19,
Right.
at 19 years old.
And I'm assuming with the violent crimes, the intent, what I think you called it, attempt to commit murder or something like that, the attempt out there, whatever it is, that's a violent crime. Would that carry like an 85% deal?
Oh,
like,
everything in Arizona is 85%. So
even larcenies and all that?
Everything's 85% in Arizona.
Wow.
So, unless it's anybody that's first-time offenders, non-dangerous, non-aggravated, will get 65 sometimes. Okay. But other than that, it's across the board out here in Arizona. But I signed the plea, and the lawyer even tells me that the judge, who this guy out of Mesa, basically said that he's ready to sentence me. So we're going to go. What would happen is you would sign your plea, you'd wait about a month, you'd go into this like settlement mediation conference where your friends and family can speak for or against you. And then you wait another month before you get sentenced. So I signed the plea, go to this settlement conference. My mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, the girl that just had my son that I never held. He was born pretty much while I was in county jail. Get up there, and they're telling this judge that like I'm an amazing person, I'm honest, I'm caring, I'm loving, I'm a great dad. Again, I never seen this kid in my life. And then when they sat down, the DA says that they have somebody that wants to speak against me. And man, I shit you not, Joe Arpaio walked right in my courtroom and like beelined it right to the judge's freaking desk, man, and just went off on me. I'm a known leader of a racist gang. I'm violent. I've caused havoc. I robbed his nephew at gunpoint. They threw that out. They couldn't speak on that, and just on and on and on. He just let me have it, man. And this is where it gets kind of, listen, God plays a lot in my story, man. I talk about it all the time. God's a huge part of my story, and I don't push that on anybody else. But the judge says, Mr. Deetz, if it's okay with you, I want to sentence you today. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I know I'm getting at least 19 years, right? And he starts reading off the codes, and he says, I sentence you to the minimum mandatory 5 years.
Wow.
Really? I guess he didn't like Arpaio, did he?
So they take me in the back, got me cuffed up, and they take me in the back, and my lawyer comes in, and he's like, you know what just happened? I said, listen, man, you said I was getting at least 19 years. I just got 5. Like, what's going on? And I thought, listen, I had done a lot of dirt on the streets, a lot, you know what I mean? And I thought probably they're going to pull more charges, stack them, and just put me away for life, And he said, your judge and Joe Arpaio had a family rivalry that went back 20 years. And despite him coming in the courtroom, he gave you the minimum.
That's wild, man.
So where did they send you after your 5-year sentence? Which, first of all, I assume you were kind of giddy about getting 5 years in jail.
Absolutely. I was great.
Which, that's a win-lose.
The downfall to it, the downfall to it is while I was waiting court, they had me in a minimum jail when I was supposed to be in a medium maximum security jail. And I cut through 5 fences and escaped and was gone for 3 days. Right. So they were supposed to do it consecutive, which means they're going to stack it on top of my 5 years, but they ran the escape concurrent. right? So I only got the 5 years. And what happened is, so because of the escape, they send me to maximum secured prison in Arizona, which they call the Walls. So 19 years old, got a 5-year sentence, and I'm going in with the big boys, all of the head honchos from every gang you could think of. And it's an open yard. It's wide open. So it's live. And so that's where I ended up my first bit. And just a note is, I think if I would have gone to a minimum camp, I think maybe I might have changed my life, possibly, you know what I mean? But they sent me to a max. And so now I get to, quote unquote, learn the real ways of life through gang banging and what really happens, if that makes
especially
sense.
going in at that young age. I mean, you're what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, you're just
I'm green. I'm fresh.
Exactly. You're fresh. You're young. You're going to be
Absolutely.
easily influenced. You're not a 40-year-old man going into the zoo for the first time. The big boy, the Walls are, we call it Big Mac. That's our big prison here, McAllister. It's called Big Mac. Same thing like the Walls there. So you go in as a grown ass man. You obviously can make some different decisions than you can as a 19-year-old.
Absolutely. And the thing is like they take full advantage of that. They know that what I was doing on the streets, they know that I'm down to do whatever. So they're going to mission me up and push me any way they can to get me to be somebody in prison. You know what I mean?
So Garrett, once you got in there, man, how long did it take you basically to click up with, gang affiliated guys, prison gangs, whatnot?
Same day.
Day one.
Same day. The minute I hit the yard, they already knew I was coming.
Yeah.
Right. I already made my bones on the streets. Right. So they knew who I was. And so a lot of my guys that were at the same caliber of me were already in there. Right. Because they caught murder beefs or whatever else. And so like they knew I was coming, and they didn't know that like until I got there, but they knew I was coming in. So here's our brother. He's here.
Hey, what was your street name, if you don't mind me asking?
Grumpy.
Grumpy. Did that carry on? Everybody call you Grumpy inside also?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It always does. Yeah, it always does.
Yeah.
I don't even, it's very few people, when we can get into my future, I mean, my now today, but there's a limited amount of people that still even call me that, you know what I mean? I have a lot of friends from prison that have changed their lives as well. And sometimes they'll call me it, but pretty much everybody knows me as Garrett now.
Good.
So when you day one, you're in prison, you click up with all your homies. It's like a family reunion, right?
Absolutely.
What kind of dirt they have you start? You said make a name for yourself, is I think the words that you use. What did they have you do to make a name for yourself when you went in?
Well, in prison, man, you're going after people that aren't supposed to be there. You know what I mean? They're going to send you to beat up whoever they need to beat you to beat up. You know what I mean? This he's no good. Go beat him up. Or there's paperwork on this dude. Go beat him up. Or he stole from me. Go beat him up. You know what I mean? You're just a crash test dummy.
Yeah. And just what he's referring to there is paperwork, somebody snitching.
Sure.
That type of stuff. That's somebody snitching, someone who's not supposed to, child molesters, rapists, that type of stuff. Those are the dudes. And obviously, if there's beefs between whether it's race or gangs or something, dope deal goes bad, and like he's saying, someone steals from you, your commissary, whatever it is. I mean, it's all, you name it. There's a list that it's been out doing missions for.
Hey, I assume that someone's calling these shots, right?
Definitely. Always.
As you do dirt, do you kind of work up the ranks?
Absolutely. I mean, your name does. I mean, in prison, your name is what carries you, right? Because when people start hearing of who you are and what you've done, then they don't, hey, I'm good. I mean, I don't want no problems with that guy. You know what I mean? The more that work that you put in, you know what I mean, in the prison, the higher your name gets. And when your name gets to that level, then no one wants to mess with you. You know what I mean? And then you're the guy making them do those things.
Well, I assume that you probably went to do some work and it probably didn't turn out the way that you wanted. You might have got sent on a job that would kind of injure you a little bit. What kind of injuries did you suffer in prison?
A lot, man. I mean, I've had broken bones. I've literally, I don't, I'll tell you guys, but I don't talk about this often. So my whole upper panel of my mouth is fake, and then half of my bottom is dentures. It's fake because getting jumped and getting my teeth kicked out, completely kicked my whole teeth out.
Well, we can agree that prison's someplace that I don't want to go, and I assume you don't want to go back there.
I will never go back there.
So
Ever.
Garrett, you went in on this 5-year stint. I'm just knowing a little bit about your story. You spent more than 5 years in prison.
Yeah, around pretty much about 25,
Okay,
roughly,
so
in and out. I was out maybe 15, 18 months out of 25 years, roughly.
and so you kind of just kept getting out, getting yourself jammed up, boom, right back inside.
Yeah, federal and state. So I did a bunch of Fed time as well. So
And we'll make it quick. What'd you do your Fed time for? What was that?
I did it for a gun.
Okay, just possession, by a convicted felon.
Yeah, but Feds
Like on
not
924C, 920, isn't that what it is? 924C or something like that.
well, there's like 100 different definitions in the federal guidelines for that. But I'll tell you what, man, just a quick thing is federal is no state prison's got anything on a federal prison when it comes to gangs. And because of who I was, I go to a max, right? So I'm going to a penitentiary.
Where'd they send you to? What
Beaumont,
state?
Texas.
Yep.
They call it Bloody Beaumont.
Yep.
It was the highest ranking yard in the system at the time. There was 104 between the year, and it just happened to be the years that I was there. And I'm not saying it was because of me, but in 05, 06, and 07, there was 147 147 stabbings and 40 murders in Beaumont. I think it was just in 05 alone.
Damn.
So you're playing for keeps, man. No room for error. It's real. You know what I mean? So I will phrase to God, and I'm not, again, not putting out of anybody, but it's like I was led in this direction where I was put in these serious situations in my life, and I came out alive. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I wasn't unscathed, but I was alive. And so like, I tell people all the time, like, for me, I know God's real because there's no way I change. It doesn't happen. I didn't want to change. I didn't want to be the guy that I am today, right? The real guy, but that's the only way it changes, man, is like, some supernatural thing had to happen because I was on a path to where I just wanted to cause hate, destruction, pain. And I think when I speak and I speak a lot, is I was a hurt little 14-year-old boy inside, right? And I was scared, but I wasn't allowing anybody to know that. So by me putting anger and violence to other people, no one knew that I was really scared.
So when did you have this epiphany?
2000 and I got out in 16, so it would have been about early 15. I was in prison. I was doing 9 1/4, and I was finishing up my bit. I found out that I had Hep C, Hep B, and Hep E, which actually E is called a BE variable, which it's deadly, right? I weighed about 130 pounds soaking wet. I was getting high every day in prison. I was jaundiced. I was dying, man. And I had a black CO come up, pick me up, take me to medical, drop me off, and was like, if you don't treat this guy, he's going to die. Right. So
and
they send me.
And sorry to cut you off. That's a race basically for decade, 2 decades or whatever it would have been that you disliked.
Absolutely. Hey,
right.
I wanted, if I could have fought him, I would have, but I had no energy to do it.
Yeah.
They send me to the hospital. I come back, they confirm it, B, C, and E, and they gave me 6 months left to live. Right. I got about a year to the gate, year and some change. And so I had a buddy, he left prison. And when he left prison, he was strung out, man. I'm talking about this dude probably weighed 125 pounds, right? Strung out. The day he left, he was getting high. And he came back a year later, which is about a year from me getting out. He comes back and he's got size on him. He looks healthy. And I'm just like, what? And he's carrying around his big book, right? His book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he's coming over to my where I'm living in prison every day or every weekend when I'm cutting up drugs. And he's like, hey man, you want to go read this book with me? And I'm like, dude, look at all these drugs, man. Get out of here, dude. You
look, Garrett, there's drugs in prison? What? Sorry. All right, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Listen, for the viewers that don't know, there's more drugs in prison per capita than there are in the streets.
Yeah, done. Exactly.
Literally.
We won't even talk about how they get into there. That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, let's not go there, man. Let's not embarrass me more.
We're not snitches here. Anyway, so going back to as you were saying.
He's carrying his book around. He comes over every weekend. And he finally one day I'm just like, hey man, if I go out and read this book with you, will you leave me alone? And he was like, yeah. So I go out, I read it with him, man. I don't know. I tell people all the time, for me, it was a spiritual experience, man. Something hit me that day that I just didn't want to get high no more. and I wanted to try to get a chance to live. And that's kind of what started it, man. It's been a long journey since then, man, which was 5 years ago. 5 years ago. December was how long I've been out, the longest I've ever been out in my life. Right. But and my life is amazing now, man. Like I can't even put it into context how amazing it is. Right. And it all comes from that dude that one day kind of forcing me to, in a sense, to go out and read a book with him that I had known. I've been in and out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous my whole life, man. I know I'm an alcoholic. I know I'm an addict. I know that I got a problem, but I'm not willing to accept it. So I'm not going to talk to you. And something in that dude just hit me, man.
You guys still
Man, I'm glad you asked that. So I get out, I'm sober. He gets out. He's in and out, getting high, not getting high, and he goes back and comes back out. And you know, when people get in heavy in addiction, man, you're the fault. You're the reason. You know what I mean? You can't keep me high. I got you sober, but you can't help me stay sober. And he was calling me names and everything else. Or I wouldn't say call me names, but he felt like I left him alone, left him out there. And literally about 2 weeks ago, I got the call that he was on another buddy of ours' couch, and he checked into treatment, and I got to FaceTime him about a week ago, and he's in treatment and he's getting sober, and he looks healthy and he's happy, man. So
awesome.
Yeah, just a great story.
Well, yeah, and I mean, your story is definitely great. I mean, you kind of 25 years in prison. In prison, you decided to get sober. How easy was it to get sober in prison?
You know, man, I'd like to say I'm a pretty strong-willed guy. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to say it was easy, but I'm not going to say it was hard either, man. I'm that guy when I want to do something, I go full tilt on it, good or bad. You know what I mean?
They call that stubborn.
Well, that's another word for it. But when I got sober in prison, I wanted to like everybody to be sober now, right? I'm sober, so you all got to be sober. All my boys have to be sober. So I kind of was pushing this on the yard, and we ended up getting a sober run, where the whole run in our building was all sober people. You had to be sober. You couldn't come in there if you weren't sober, you know. And then we had meetings, and so we kind of created our own little area, so we weren't worried about it.
So how did this? I'm sure this alienated you from your gang, correct?
Absolutely. A lot of people ask me that, man. I think, and again, going back to the God aspect, but also I think is like when I went to them and said, I'm out, I'm done, leave me alone. You know what I mean? And a lot of people hear like, well, you're in, blood out, and this, that, and the other. And it's not, right? Because I watched so many dudes when I was involved in the gangs that got out, and I didn't go after them because I'm just like, oh, screw that dude. He's lame. He's weak. Let him be. Right. But they didn't say that about me, but they were basically like, look, dude, you did what you did. You were who you were. We're leaving you alone, but you can never come back. You know what I mean? So I'm on that edge now where like, I know I can never go back, because if I go back, it's not going to be good for me. Right. But I also know that they're like, hey man, just do what you're doing. And it's crazy is I work in recovery now too. Right. And I've been in recovery for a couple of years now. And a lot of them call me, you know, their family members or their girlfriends or whatever are getting high and they need help. And they'll call me and be like, hey man, can you help me out? And it's kind of cool that they know that they can still count on me, but in a different way now.
Well, being a skinhead, that's pretty much, you're racist, right?
Oh, was definitely.
There's no easy way, or you're not gonna candy coat that shit. I mean, what switched in your head that says, "Hey, I'm not a racist anymore. I'm not that guy."
Well, I mean, I can tell you what it was, which, like, you know, I say God and all that, where I just didn't want it no more. But then the proof of it is, and I tell people all the time, is because people are like, well, are you sure you're out? Well, my fiance, right? She's Puerto Rican, Italian, and she's born in Mexico, right? And my son that we just had almost 15 months ago, so he's a half breed. So
Right.
basically, I'm out, guys. Like the gig's up, dude. I can't come back, you know.
Yeah, but for our listeners that can't see you out there, I mean, you're covered in tats, right? You
Yeah.
got what's on? I think that's on your right hand. That's a cross, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's a cross on my hand. Yeah, my whole body is head to toe covered with prison street Nazi political ink.
So
head to toe.
how do you deal with the public now when they come up? And I'm sure you get looks.
I've been asked that many times, and a lot of guys that I know from the past that have changed their lives. There's a bunch of us out here now, man. I mean, it's crazy how many of us have just walked away. And I'm not going to say it's because of me, but I noticed when I walked away, a lot of other dudes were like, oh, me too. Like, oh, me too. Me too. You know what I mean? So everybody's out. But I tell them all the time, man, I'm not covering them up. And I'm not going to do anything different, because I want people to understand that that's my testimony, man. That's how people can see that change is possible. Right. I cover it up. They don't see that gang tattoo. They don't see that mark of who I used to be. Right. But now they see that, and then they can understand and truly realize that, like, hey, man, change is possible. We do change. We're not the same people. And it's all, again, it's also, it's a opening for a conversation with people. You know, people look at that, and I get it all the time. Is so my tattoo on my neck and a bunch of my tattoos are what the old beliefs are, what they call Asatru, right? Which are the Norwegian gods, you know, Thor and Odin and all that stuff. And there's still people who really do believe in that, and I respect that. But then people who will come up to me and be like, "Hey, that's a good tattoo, me too," and I'm like, "Nope, bro. Like, you know, I'm with God now, but like we can talk about it. Like, maybe I can open up the door for you too, you know."
Yeah, you know, it's how old are you, Garrett?
I'll be 40. Shit, 48.
48? You born
48.
74, I'm guessing? 70,
73.
73, okay. Oh yeah, I was born in 73. I'm 48 also. Hey, Jason, your Weller 12 is really good, buddy.
We're doing that.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's some
maybe
good
I should go-
whiskey.
maybe I should go sober. But no, so you know, we had a guy that was on here before, just kind of talking about guys making the change, part of getting older, being in prison. You and I both know there are guys that they're in it forever. They're just they never make that change. They, whether it's out on the street or back inside, that's just how it's going to end, is one way or the other through that life, whether it's, like you said, the dope or the gangs. But there was a guy that we had on the show here. It was a dude I actually put in federal prison back in '99, and tonight, right before we got on here with you, I mean, his brother was killed. It's an unsolved murder. This dude was like, you know, Hoover Crips is one of our big black criminal street gangs here. He's one of the school guys of that. He's like, this guy's in his early 50s now, because this was, you know, a long ass time ago. But he now works for a aerospace company. He just got engaged. He sent me a picture or a video of when they got engaged. And tonight, before we went on the show, he's like, "Hey man, what's your email address? I want to send you an invite to the wedding." And so it just kind of goes back to, like you're saying, man, you can fuck up a bunch. I mean, you know, and you're obviously, you know, a guy who's done that. But if you want to make that change, yours was through religion. You know, his was, he found a guy. He would start out sweeping floors for, what he said, like $8 an hour or something like that at this aerospace company. And they end up, you know, somebody gave him an opportunity to try to move up. And this guy's now in management at this aerospace company. So if you want to make that change, you know, if you want to put that effort in it, man, it can be done.
Listen, man, when I say I have an amazing life, like I have an amazing life, like a life that I say all the time that I don't think I deserve, right? But God does, right? We'll leave that alone. But I mean, I make almost six figures, right? Yeah. Almost six figures. I've barely been out of prison 5 years, right? I got a beautiful home. I got 2 brand new cars. I got a baby. I got a great support group, right? Man, all those things have been blessed to me, man. And like, I can't even tell somebody like enough that we can't get these things, right? Because
let me ask you, is one of the best things, obviously the baby should trump it all, but not looking over your shoulder ever? You're not worried about the police, and you're not worried about rivals. There's some other dude within your own clique trying to rip you off. I mean, isn't it the best that you're never looking over your shoulder?
Yeah, I did I don't know if you guys saw my CBS 5 interview. I don't know if you guys saw that on your thing or not, but Brandon Lee, right? And I'm not tooting it, but it was nominated for an Emmy because he's just an amazing guy. He's a really good friend of mine. But he asked me on that show, he said, am I worried about them coming after me? Right? And I said, no, it can't happen. Listen, man, one of these youngsters might get a little hair up his butt, and he might want to try to come get me, and he might see me out front of my house and shoot me in the face. I mean, that could happen. I don't see that happening, but like, man, I don't have to look over worried about him doing that, because I just don't it's not, I don't think that's fallible, right? It's the simple fact is like, I know that if I'm doing good and I'm putting good into the world, I'm going to get good back, right? And bad things do happen, sure. But I don't look at myself like I'm hoping or waiting for that to happen, because I just don't believe that. You know what I mean? I've got a lot of good, like I said, a lot of good guys that were, I wouldn't say at my level, but a little bit lower down the range. One of them my level that's getting out soon, but have all changed their lives. And one's getting out, but the rest of them are out, and they're like, they're all making great money. They got families, they got houses, and it's like, dude, we do change. People don't think we do, but we do.
Absolutely.
Well, man, we've only got a few more minutes left. I mean, you're a great testament from going from hate to love, and that
Mhm.
you can have these stereotypes, you can be a racist, but everybody has the power to change. The world's between your ears.
And before you go, listen, I don't knock anybody for their beliefs, man, because I live that belief, right? So if that's his belief, I respect that, man. I don't disagree with you. I don't hate you. Listen, if that's how you believe, you got that right to believe that way. As long as you're not pushing that and hurting other people like we used to do, I'm good, man. I think everybody has the right to believe in what they want to believe in. But I know for a fact is one thing is that if you're out there helping that next man do the best that he can do every day, your life is going to be amazing, because that's why mine is I look at it like God, my program, my family, that's the level, man. And when I can do it for that in that order, man, it's amazing, man. I don't have like that. I don't even like, I don't deserve this, man, but obviously I got it. So
No,
I'm
good
just
for
gonna,
you. Well, now you got to stay around and raise that baby.
That's
know?
right.
yeah, man.
Make sure they don't turn out to be that scared, hurt 14-year-old. That's your job right now as a dad. And I mean, we've got kids that are exceeded 14. So let me ask you real quick, Garrett, if people want to, follow your story or anything like that, is there any way there's something out there they can kind of, whether it's social media or anything like that about you?
Yeah, obviously I'm on Instagram. You guys got that, you know what I mean? Facebook, but also we have a podcast that we started, I don't know, say about 4 months ago. We've got about 4 episodes in right now. We haven't launched it yet, but it's going to be called Lost Sheep Live. And all it is, man, is a bunch of old gangsters that are coming on the show, and they're basically telling what it was like before and then what it's like now and how amazing it is. Definitely not glorifying any prison or anything that happens in prison, but more so of the change. So they can look out for that too. But yeah, man, there's going to be a lot more coming, man. I just appreciate you guys having me on, man.
No.
Absolutely. Here's to your sobriety, sir. Thanks for being here.
If you need a redheaded nurse that has no clue about the gangster world, have Howard on your podcast. So, yeah. It'll be entertaining.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we can get him on there, man. We can talk about saving people as a nurse drunk.
There you go.
All right, sir. You have a good evening. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, brother. You were great, man.
All right, man. Thanks.
Appreciate it.